Bill, you're the editor, publisher of some magazines around the island,
Yes.
the various chronicles.
Yes.
And I notice I got one here, which is the Southern Chronicle for this year, and there's a big headline. I mean, you couldn't get more noticeable. White type on a black background, reverse type that says "Join the Manx War against plastic." Now, how do we do that? Because it's often thought that because of the size of this place, we're not going to make much difference to all this.
No, and I do understand that, and I have to say, for quite some time, I've felt that that this is not a losing battle, but it's a very slow burner, and it takes such a long time for things to happen. But this, as you mentioned at the very start of the program, this influence by David Attenborough has changed everything. Since November, when that started to go out, and even though he hadn't mentioned plastic in the first few editions, it was clearly leading up to him doing that. And when he said that in the final version, and then all sorts of things has just taken off since then. And everybody, I mean, the national press in the UK was taking next to no notice of this. And then all of a sudden, in November, December, January, everybody now is on the bandwagon. And it's a huge campaign now. It's changed dramatically.
But when you say on a campaign, we have a part to play in it here in the Isle of Man then.
Yes.
Right. So what part can we play? Is it an individual's part, or should Tynwald be doing more, or is it doing more?
I think this is where community and government is coming together, and in fact that is and has been happening. And to be fair to Tynwald, I've been speaking in private to members of Tynwald since probably the end of last summer, well before the David Attenborough thing, about making changes and talking about issues like reusable plastic bottles, refilling plastic bottles in water taps, getting rid of plastic where we can, using compostable materials instead of polystyrene and plastic for fast food containers, and making some changes. And I think government's trying to get companies and individuals to change without the need to go through all the mess of legislation, and to actually, and that is starting to happen. And I mean, there's a list of people now and companies, even ShopRite now have started, they're going to get rid of single-use plastic bags. The one thing about it all is, at the end of the day, plastic is a useful material. It's the disposal of it is what's causing the problem. Because And as with anything in the world, it is a small percentage of the population who are messing things up for everybody else. And I live in Andreas, and I drive over the mountain a lot. And the stuff at the side of the road is things like fast food containers, coffee cups, polystyrene boxes, pizza trays.
So these have been whizzed out the window.
Whizzed out the window at night time, because you can imagine for years I've been trying to find somebody some poor soul to make an example of. So that take him to court, and the court can say, you are fined, mate, £1,000 because you threw a pizza carton out through the window.
There's legislation currently to allow for that.
That you can be fined quite a lot of money for deliberately throwing litter out of a window. Yeah. Mm. But I tell you what, in the 4 or 5 years I've been trying to do that, I have not seen one single incident. And I think and as I say, in the morning, you can see what's been thrown out the night before. So it's not the easiest thing to find. So therefore, if the materials they throw out the window, which they're going to continue throwing out the window, are not made of plastic, then you're making a difference. Whereas plastic itself is a pretty useful material if it's disposed of properly or recycled.
What about our rivers and waterways? We haven't touched on that yet because we've been talking about beaches and marine pollution. But I presume that if things end up in our rivers, and I presume that they do, as you say, possibly end up in the sea afterwards, but that's homegrown. Yeah,
I've been asked by some of the anglers and some of those organisations to get involved in cleaning up some pretty messy rivers, and that's part, because we've said we're going to do things other than beaches, then the rivers are obviously one place that we will have a go at. Honestly, this is endless, isn't it? I mean, you could cover the whole of the Isle of Man, and why not? Here we are in control of this place, 33 miles by 12. Why can we not do that and set an example? And more to the point, if we work together, don't look on the government or the authorities as the enemy. Look at those as people who can help us and work together. And that has worked for us. And without question, you will get things done on that basis. Whereas if you go in with all guns firing and say, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, I tell you what, you will instantly end up with enemies, and that doesn't work. So
legislation is normally, or should be, brought about to legislate for the minority, not the majority. I mean, we all know you don't murder people, but there's a law against it.
Yeah, and I think if they were to say that anybody who was found throwing rubbish out through their car window and dumping rubbish or fly tipping or whatever, if those fines were to be really, really high, very, very high, then they would think twice maybe, because there's idiots going round the corner here and throwing televisions over the side of Marine Drive. Now, last time we were there, we found half a dozen televisions.
But this is not just economic, is it? It's an attitude of mind.
It is. I mean, you think about it. I think it costs about £7 or £8 to get rid of a TV. You'd probably use that much petrol going up there. But if you got caught, and the other thing is, on one of these televisions, there was the barcode was still on, and I went to Walton's, and they told me, we know who bought this television. Now, we didn't do anything about it. This is several years ago. We didn't do anything about it at the time. But people should be aware that you are able, if it had been stolen, the police are able to identify lots of these things these days. So people should be aware that if you do things like that, look out, because the boys in blue might well be knocking on your door very shortly.